So guys, this is the deep forest, the tick's favorite habitat. And if you enjoy hiking like I do and you want to take your dog along with you, you're going to be more than likely to pick up ticks this time of year at the end of summer. They're at their peak, absolute peak population. But I'll tell you, I've got a simple remedy, and it's completely organic for your dog. He'll be perfectly safe, and you'll be able to follow along and make it in no time for almost nothing. So guys, although it looks like the deep forest, I'm actually still in my backyard, but there's still ticks everywhere, especially at the end of summer. So let's head into the greenhouse and I will show you exactly how to put this recipe together. It'll only take a few minutes and it's very inexpensive to do. So guys, I'm going to divide the video into 3 equal parts. First part, I'm going to show you exactly how to put it together. If that's all you want to see is the recipe, I'll do that first. Second, I'll tell you 20 other ways you can keep ticks under control on your pet, your dog, and even your cat. And the last thing, I'm going to give you 20 really unusual tips about ticks, such as ticks are really not in the insect family. They're actually more in the arachnid or the mite family. So it's an interesting ending there if you want to hang around for it. Now I'm actually going to give you 2 separate recipes, and depending on your personal preference and what type of essential oil you like best, you can choose from the 2. But the first thing you're going to need is a witch hazel that is alcohol free. Now it is easy to accidentally pick up one that has alcohol, but you don't want alcohol in it because this is going to be on your pet's skin. So just remember, alcohol free witch hazel, some aloe vera juice, some lavender essential oil, and lemon essential oil, and lastly pure Castile soap unscented. And so I guess you could call this an ingredient, but water is just kind of the base mix there. So we're going to need a distilled water as well to get the purest water we can have. Now in case you're wondering, I did check with my vet many years ago, probably a decade ago. I asked him what would be a natural solution that doesn't contain harsh chemicals, something that you can buy off the shelf that's perfectly safe for pets. So when you talk about essential oils in high concentrations, they are toxic to pets. But this concentration is so low, 1 to 3%, is very safe for your pet. So I just want to make sure that you understand this is vet approved. My vet told me it is perfectly safe. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to put 1 cup of the witch hazel into your mixing jar. And so we're going to fill that up. And unfortunately my mixing jar is losing some of its print on the outside. So we're just going to have to kind of eyeball it because I'm pretty sure that most of it's washed off over the last decade of use. So that's our first ingredient. Now our second ingredient is aloe vera juice, and this is brand new. I just ordered it, and everything I'm talking about in this video, I'm going to put the link in the description. A little tricky here of getting these plastic seals off of it. Now the aloe vera juice, you're going to want 2 tablespoons of aloe vera. Now what I want to say first about the witch hazel is the witch hazel will soothe your dog's skin and help repel the ticks without drying out their coat. So that's the purpose of the witch hazel, and it needs to be, again, really important, alcohol free. Now you're going to need 2 tablespoons of aloe vera juice, and I'll tell you just a second what this is for. Now this will hydrate your dog's skin, and it also has soothing properties as well. Now our next ingredient is our lavender, and we're going to put 10 drops of lavender, if I can say that, lavender essential oil, and this will help repel the ticks and also have a calming effect. A lot of times people don't realize, but in addition to the surface or your skin abilities of these essential oils to make changes, it also can have a psychological effect on humans and as well as canines. So this will have a calming effect with your dog. So if you have a dog that's a little bit out of control, try some lavender, and we're going to put 10 drops of this in there. 10 of that. And wow, that really does smell like lavender. This kit I'm going to show you in just a second is pure, 100% pure, and I got it from Amazon. You can get one. It has 48 separate types of essential oils, and it's a lot cheaper than buying them individually. So that's what I'd recommend. Now lastly, we're going to put in 5 drops of the essential lemon oil. Now you need to use this in moderation with cats because it can be a little bit more chance of being a side effect, especially if you have an elderly dog or cat, or if you're talking about a puppy or a kitten. But if you're talking about a healthy middle-aged dog who's in great shape, then you don't have to worry about it. But check with your vet regardless and just confirm that what I'm telling you is safe for your individual pet. So again, we're going to add 5 drops of the lemon essential oil. Now the next thing we're doing is we're going to add in, if I can find it, the Castile soap. And we're going to add half of a teaspoon of Castile soap, and this will help all of the oils to mix, kind of acts as a emulsifier, and it makes everything blend together much better. And it's also, when you put it on your cat or dog, it will gently cleanse their fur. Okay, we're going to put in our half teaspoon of unscented Castile soap. And again, I'm putting all of the ingredients in the description and where I got them and how you can order them. I think a majority of them are coming from Amazon. Now, if you want to further dilute your solution, you can take 1 cup of distilled water. I keep some around the greenhouse in the shop, but you can take 1 cup of that and dilute it further. But I want to keep it in this pure form that I have right here because it's going to be some deep woods hiking, and I want to make sure that I have it in its most potent form so that if I do come across an area where there's a lot of ticks that have bred in tall grasses and shrubbery, that I don't have to worry about me or my pet picking them up, because I even spray my own clothes with this solution and it works really well to keep them off of me. The ticks just brushing up against something like a shrub, tall grasses, anything like that, there can be ticks on the underside and they immediately cling to you as you walk by. And the next thing you want to make sure each time you use this, you want to shake it and mix it well so that all the ingredients, when you apply it to your pet, is in its full strength. You don't want it to be where it's separated and you think you're treating your pet and it's only just part of our ingredient list. Now, the way that I apply this to our German Shepherd is I use a human brush, not a pet comb, because I want to make sure that it's evenly distributed throughout the coat. So a nice brush, not the type that's got the many bristles, but you want the ones that just have the individual, so you can carefully put it throughout the coat without yanking on the hair. Now, if your pet's really got curly hair, you may want to use whatever works best for your pet when you're grooming them. But another thing to consider is make sure you don't spray this around sensitive areas, the face, the eyes, the nose. You may have to just gently rub it and leave it out of those areas because it can harm the pet. Now, dogs do have a good sense of smell, but it doesn't bother my dog. It's never had any side effects. But again, one more time, check with your vet first and make sure, because a lot of dogs have different issues. They could be hypersensitive to things. Their breed could be very sensitive. So if you check with your vet, give him the recipe and to ask him what he thinks, I think he'll say the same thing, that it is safe. Now, before I move on to the second formula, I just wanted to give you a quick glance of the essential oil kit I ordered. This has been one of the best kits I ever had. It's 100% all natural. I'm really happy with it. I often buy a lot of essential oils and I buy them from different sellers. It is a real pain to keep everything organized. This has a very nice box that it comes in a little styrofoam thing that you can keep them all organized and you don't lose them. This is actually the second set I've ordered, so that really worked well. I used up about half of it. I still have half of them in another box. But this one right here, again, I'll put the link in the description. I think you'll really like using it if you really need to make your own essential oil formula and you want something that's really pure. All right, so the second one is very similar to the last one. There's a couple of added ingredients, or a couple of ingredients we've changed up a little bit. We're still using the alcohol-free witch hazel, the aloe vera juice, and then we switched up from the other essential oil to a cedarwood oil. And next, we're using something that's well known in the world as a natural and organic insecticide. So it's neem oil. It's 100% pure and it's safe on your pets in lower quantities. Of course, you don't want to put this super concentrated on a dog or cat. Lastly, again, we're using the Castile soap, unscented. Now, again, we're going to start with our witch hazel and we're going to use 1 cup unscented. Let me just open this up so we can get it out a little bit quicker. 1 cup of our witch hazel. We're really close there to running out of witch hazel, but luckily I have another bottle in the greenhouse. Second thing we're going to use is our aloe vera juice. Again, 2 tablespoons of aloe vera juice. And again, for the same reason as before, it's great for the skin of your pet. Next, we're going to use our cedarwood essential oil. And this is actually one of my favorite scents, is this cedarwood, and it's 100% natural. So we're going to use 10 drops of cedarwood essential oil. This is known as being a very strong tick repellent and is safe for both dogs and cats, in a very small percentage like this, about 1 to 3%. So again, this is 10 drops. Okay, and then the next thing we're mixing up here is we're adding the neem oil. So we want 5 drops of neem oil. Now this helps repel the ticks and also other pests, but you need to use it cautiously, especially around cats. So make sure it's well diluted. You don't want to use this in its concentrated form. So 5 drops. And if you feel like your pet may be a little bit more at risk, you can add that water we talked about earlier. You don't have to make this in its purely concentrated form, but I think for me personally, it works the best on my dog when we go on our long hikes in the forest in this particular concentration. Now again, we're using a glass bottle that will help your solution last longer. It's not that it goes bad, but it just loses its potency. It's just like a medication. If you don't have it in a dark colored bottle, it can lose its potency over time. So that's why I recommend glass, and especially dark. So we're going to fill up our bottle, second bottle, with our alternate formula. Try not to overfill it there. And I'm going to keep it in its full concentration. And I'll give you a few tips off the bat about how to apply this to your pet. Now you want to make sure that you don't, again, I've already said this once, but I just want to make sure this is an extremely important point. Don't spray it around their eyes, nose, or mouth. You do want to apply it to your hands and rub it around the ears, under the collar, but just keep it away from those vital areas that could be sensitive. And that's what I always do. I make sure I just put it on my hands and gently rub it around his ears and around the neck, and especially, like I said, the collar. Now you want to do a patch test, like I said earlier, on the belly, somewhere where you have an exposed skin where you can see the skin. If you spray this on the outer area of the fur, you won't be able to see what's going on underneath. So around the belly, on a dog where you can actually see the skin, or on a cat where the hair is the shortest. But most of the time I'm applying this only to my dog, because our cats, they don't leave the yard, and they really don't even prefer to be outside, our indoor cats. So our outdoor cats are always in one location. Our dog is ready to go at any moment. So I'm going to give you some more tips on applying this to your dog, and just make sure that you follow them carefully, because some of them are really critical. The patch test is probably one of the most critical. In an open area of the skin where you can see, maybe the size of a quarter, as I said earlier, make sure you spray that there. Wait 24 hours and see if there's a reaction, a rash, just to be safe. Now, if you spray this on their back or somewhere where they have a lot of fur, you won't be able to see what's going on with the underlying skin. So just make sure that you do that patch test first. Now, if you're using this on an extended camping trip, you want to reapply this every 2 to 3 days, or after your dog has been in water, or if you bathe it. So again, it will last up to 3 days, but remember that if you're going to be outside for an extended period, reapplication is necessary. Now, the essential oils at this particular rate of their dilution is like 1 to 3%, and you don't have to worry about there being a reaction. But again, if your pet is overly sensitive, or if it's a very old pet or a very young pet, look for signs of discomfort, itching, and redness on their skin. It's really important that you follow up. But once you've figured out that this is safe for your pet, then you can reapply it without being worried near as much as you do the first application. Now, if your pet has particularly sensitive skin, you can dilute it by adding another cup or even 2 cups of distilled water to your solution. Now, remember that water and oils tend to separate naturally, so that's going to be even more important that you shake it thoroughly before each use. Now, my vet knows the medical history of my dog extremely well, because that's the only vet he's ever been to. But for your particular pet, you may want to check with your veterinarian, because he knows the medical history and the issues that might occur with your particular dog. So just remember, check with your vet first before you apply any homemade recipe, and just make sure that he's okay with it. Now, you want to avoid overuse, especially with cats. You want to apply this no more than once every 3 days. As I said earlier, if they bathe, if they go out into a lake or pond or stream and it gets washed off, they've been completely submerged up to their neck, then the essential oils and things like that have probably been washed off and removed. So only every 3 days, unless there's been a bathing event. Now, another thing you want to do is, whatever products you're using, you want to make sure they're 100% pure. You don't want them to have added any harsh chemicals, as I said earlier about the witch hazel, that they've added alcohol. So any of these essential oils that are not 100% pure, that is ones that you don't want to use on your pet. Now, if you discover that your pet is allergic to any of these essential oils that you've used, you can always substitute another. If you do a little research, you'll find that there's a lot of essential oils that do act as a repellent. So just remember that patch test in the beginning is really important. And if you have a kit like this, you'll have a lot of different essential oils to choose from, and you can do a little bit of Googling and find out exactly which oil will repel the pest. But I like the particular smells of lavender and cedarwood, so those are the two that I've discovered work the best, and I enjoy the smell of them, and it doesn't bother my dog at all. So I'm going to give you 20 additional tips really as quick as I can, because I've been accused of rambling on many times in the comments. So I'll try to give those to you as fast as possible, but I'm going to give you 20 of those that beyond the homemade recipes that you can use that will help your dog be free of ticks. So the first one is EATU. So I just go with that because it's easy to remember. After each hike or after each time the dog's been out in the deep woods area, I check these areas. The ears, all around the ears, because ticks are always crawling in those areas and hiding because it's a good place for them to hide. A is for the armpits, all 4 armpits of the dog. I check those to make sure there's no fleas. That's another place they love to hide. T is for between the toes, because that's another area that fleas will, I keep saying fleas, I mean to say ticks are going to hide in those areas and latch onto the skin, and you won't even see them for quite a while. So it's EAT, and U is the underside or the underbelly. Just check that area because it's an easy place for a tick to attach itself to that bare skin on the belly if your dog has that. Now the second thing that I use for my German Shepherd is a fine-tooth comb like this. Now it's a lot harder if your pet has long shaggy hair or extremely curly hair, so you may have to use another type of brush, but I can just brush this through his hair, and a lot of time if there's a tick in there, it'll just fall out when I'm grooming it. I'll have him sitting on a large piece of cardboard so I can see anything that falls out of his hair. So a flea comb like this also works for ticks. Okay, so I'm going to provide some pictures of my German Shepherd because he's been such a great dog, and I really think you'll enjoy it. So while I'm spouting out these last of the 20 different methods, I'll show you some pictures of him while I'm speaking. So guys, you want to keep the grass in your yard cut low. The taller your grass, the more possibility of ticks in those areas. You want to create a tick-free zone. Areas where your dog plays, you want to put a barrier around it, such as gravel or even something like a cedar, 1 to 3 foot wide barrier of cedar chips around that area. You want to avoid tick-infested areas, deep woods. Make sure your dog stays away from those. And if it does go to those areas, then that's when you need to do an examination. If you think you can use a essential oil-based tick collar, which those are kind of new, they are out there, a little bit harder to find, but an essential oil tick collar may be a lot safer than the chemical ones. I don't really recommend those. I don't trust them. You want to make sure you wash your dog's bedding regularly. If his bedding is outdoors in the warmer months, make sure you wash that, because not only can there be ticks on there, but larvae that you can't see. Now, if you want to treat your yard, you want to use a pet safe yard spray or apply diatomaceous earth. That's the safest thing I've found, and I really like using it around the yard because it kills so many different types of insects. When it comes to flea and tick medications, I really don't like those because I've heard there can be neurological side effects. So speak with your vet about that, because I'm not an expert on it, but I would just be very careful. At times, sometimes those type of products are absolutely necessary. Now, of course, regular grooming is going to cut down on the ticks because you'll be able to spot them while you're grooming him. Now, another thing that you need to do, if you and your pet both go into the deep woods on hikes, you want to make sure you inspect yourself, because sometimes ticks will latch onto a person and then release themselves, go into the pet's bedding, and then you'll be transferring the tick from you to your pet. So check yourself after each walk. Vaccinations is one of those things that if you live in a very, very bad area where there are a lot of tick-borne illnesses, then maybe you want to consider talking to your vet about a vaccine for your dog that might protect it from Lyme disease. Now, you can tick-proof outdoor play areas by laying down a tick repellent, again, of cedar wood chips, very thinly. I know if he plays in the grass, that's going to be a little bit more difficult, but in other outdoor play areas is a natural cedar area that will automatically repel ticks. Now, you want to keep pets indoors during peak tick hours. Ticks are more active at dawn in the morning and dusk, so you want to try to limit your outdoor time for pets during these hours, especially in the tick-prone areas. Use natural repellents. Now, as I've talked about in this entire video in the beginning, the first part of it was all about making natural repellents for your pet, and you can do that, and you can even do some more research and find there are other things besides the lavender and cedar oil. You can try eucalyptus. Now, you want to create a tick barrier on your beds. You want a tick repellent mat soaked in the diluted essential oils like we made, and put them near the bed, maybe a towel wrapped around the border of it, not necessarily where the pet's going to be sleeping. And so guys, the last of those tips are to make sure that if you're removing a tick from your dog, you want to make sure you use a very fine set of tweezers, a fine point tweezer, and get it as close to the skin as possible so you remove the entire tick, and then clean the area very thoroughly after you removed it. Check, make sure there's not a head in there or there's not any redness, because it could cause an infection if it's really deeply buried in your dog's skin there. So the last part of the video, I told you I would divide it into 3 parts. The last part is the more interesting facts about ticks, and one is that ticks are not actually in the insect family. They're actually an arachnid, and they're more closely related to scorpions, and they may be even more related closely to mites. Now, another interesting fact about ticks is some species of ticks can live up to 3 years without having a single blood host, and they can kind of become dormant in between those periods when they're waiting for a suitable host to come along. Now, unlike fleas or mosquitoes, there's a lot of myths surrounding ticks as to how they get on you, but ticks do not jump and they certainly can't fly. But basically, when a host brushes by, they'll brush up against a leaf, some tall grass, and that's how they get onto you. Is that basically it's just, I believe the term is called questing, is how it transfers from that plant to your skin. So ticks sense you coming close by your breath, by the heat of your body, and also by the vibrations of your walking. Dogs don't put out a lot of vibrations when they walk, but if you have one that loves to bound, that's when it really attracts the notice of a tick and is more likely to get on your pet. But that's just one of the things that dogs like to do. Just a human walking by, it can put out enough vibrations that they can feel it. The same thing happens with fleas. They can sense heat in your breath and vibrations, and that's when they're most attracted to you, specifically your breath and your heat. Now, when ticks bite you, they kind of inject an anesthetic in your skin, and that's why you don't feel the bite. Unlike if a spider bites you, you know right away because there's no anesthetic feeling there. It's a pure bite that gets you. Mosquitoes kind of do the same thing, as they kind of numb the skin when they do take a bite of you. Or in this case of mosquito, they inject their needle to withdraw your blood. So ticks go through 4 life stages. You have first the egg, then the larva, then the nymph, and then the adult. And the thing is that 3 of those life stages, the larva, nymph, and the adult, all need blood meals to produce onto the next stage. The egg is the only one that doesn't require a blood meal. Now, depending on the exact species, generally speaking, the tick can remain on the pet skin or even on a human skin for 3 to 10 days feeding off their host. And that time period depends again on the species and the immune response of the host. So this last thing about ticks is probably the most unusual, and I've never heard of it until I did a lot of research on it. But a tick, a specific type of tick, a Lone Star tick, once it bites you, it can cause a syndrome in your body that causes you to become allergic to red meat. It's really strange, but if you look it up, you'll find that the Lone Star tick causes this reaction, or it can cause the reaction, and you could become allergic to red meat for a period of time. So guys, I want to say thanks so much for watching, and if you have a question or you want me to answer something specific you have about this video or any other video, please become a public subscriber first. That's the way I filter all the comments. I get so many of them, it's hard for me to answer everything because I would be spending 2 to 3 hours a day answering comments. And if I could do that, I would, but I preferably want to answer people who have did me the favor of subscribing to me, and I really do appreciate that. So guys, I hope you have a great day, and thanks for watching.